Thanks for having me. So yeah, Albenkein, in basically joining Locus as an investor as well as a senior advisor and operating partner. And I'm currently the CEO of Contour, a geospatial analytics, insights, and AI company, and based here in Hawaii in the United States. It's my pleasure to have this interview. I think the main thing that attracted me to Lokuschain is really the team and their background, their domain expertise, the game engine origin of the story, and that in itself basically showed a very, very difficult problem to solve, especially around blockchain. And I instantly kind of understood that if you have that domain expertise, you understand actually how to solve some of the major friction points right now in the current industry. Yeah, so the technology and the team, and then also the Lokuschain potential. And what that means is that the Lokuschain, by solving actually the gaming requirements, and knowing how to solve it, and the demand of gaming environments in regards to the data flow, Locus is not only solving gaming, but they're solving all kinds of other verticals like smart cities. And because that's one of my expertise around the big data and smart city data utilization, I really heavily connected with that understanding quite quickly with Lokuschain. And I know that if we're solving this in gaming, we will solve a very big issue in the decentralized secure data ecosystem for twin city, smart city solutions. And that's why I'm aligning myself with Locus. I think you've already seen some of my actions and the results. What I'm bringing is really awareness of Locus to top global advisors such as David Atkinson and Yuri Stav from former DCG. And in addition to that, basically making sure that exchanges and liquidity providers and other industry partners are aware of the Locus potential and what Locus actually can do for them. So we are already, rapid speed working on all frontiers. And so I'm just really excited that we're seeing the first signals of my actions and my commitment and contribution to Locus. In addition to, bringing in big smart city projects that we utilize Locus on, and gaming networks and gaming partners and investor groups that really understand the long-term vision of what Locus is trying to achieve. So it's a very big 4-point KPI. It's community awareness, adoption, liquidity that I'm really focused on. I think the current blockchain industry is obviously in a downturn, as they call it, of the winter. But as I've learned in multiple cycles in the past, that we're still right now recovering from the CeFi DeFi transition. So the central explosion, like what we saw with Lunar and some of the other bigger central engagement of asset providers, that is going away. People want more transparency. And a lot of bridges are being basically put together to interconnect all the protocols that are in the protocol war. So that brings a lot of uncertain times because those bridges between the protocols have massive vulnerabilities and other compliance issues around regulations. And no true real adoption is emerging in governments because they're choosing a central solution for their digital currencies, such as China, Switzerland, and all the other nations out there. So again, a key issue that I'm seeing is central. But I also see a lot of building happening, meaning a lot of developers are seeing this silence and this current downturn as a chance to really start focusing on the product and adoption. And in my view, based on what I've seen on all the investments in the last 2 years, Locus is in the perfect position, primarily because the gaming industry is awakening to a complete new awareness of how the metaverse, as they call it, and the NFT utilization creates a new ecosystem for the gaming community around skins, ownership, and again, the same central CeFi strategy that actually fell apart is basically being very embraced by a true decentralized utility, which means the users own all their assets and they can actually put them into the second market and monetize those assets. And that in itself is a massive value that Locus is now truly one of the key players in the market with, because the focus and domain expertise of Locus positions Locus in a front and center position. And we've already seen that based on the feedback in Japan with some of the big guild game funds. And we're already seeing that on other conversations we're having on a global scale, that Locus basically is being taken serious because people understand that, a lot of engineers out there have massive goals and they try to achieve big solutions. But at the end of the day, domain expertise still matters. And I think where we're going right now in regards of what we have around the gaming industry and how that's going to be the new wake-up call of true adoption, I think is a perfect opportunity and future for our industry. So what I've seen in the past is that, for example, in 2019, the total TVL, total value locked of DeFi was around $120 million when I was getting involved. It went all the way to over 400 to 600 billion within 2 years. Now it's collapsed again, it's down to around 200 billion. And if you think about how that expanded, you have to think of the same velocity of expansion. We're creating better onboarding for users. We're creating more liquidity for users, meaning that they actually can now create liquidity with their assets like the NFTs, the characters, the skins, the achievements. And that it means that all that is capital that's going back into the market. So going from 200 billion up to 2 trillion or 8 trillion is not something that's unrealistic. It's actually something that all the markets are preparing. And when I'm seeing lightning speed and some of the bigger crypto funds creating funds around 17 billion in regards of velocity, that means they're getting ready to actually take advantage of the current down market, buy in as much investments as possible because they know it's going to come back up. We're just dealing with a down market dynamic and on a global scale. But when we think about today's market announcement, it didn't have a massive impact on crypto. That's a very good signal for us because it means that there's a decoupling happening between the financial markets and the crypto industry. I think, it's really Locus leads with focus, right? And that's really what I like about what the team has been doing and why they've been working so hard on a solution and they're not giving up until it's perfect. And that is the culture of Locus and the team behind it. But I also love how they've been solving problems that a lot of the protocols have not been able to solve. And what I mean with that is that Locus have created a node system that is sustainable for the next 10 years, not something that basically is going to blow up, where if you look at the current node requirements about Ethereum, it's not sustainable when you have to have 7 terabytes of storage just to run a node, right? So Locus is really thinking about those friction points and not just releasing a mainnet and saying, okay, we're live, and then trying to create iteration through sprint cycles and dealing with outages like we're seeing with Solana, where they bring down the whole network for like a day or 5 days because they're trying to do updates, or we're seeing the same thing with like Polygon. So Locus is really focusing on something that can handle the scale because they know, similar to like game development, that if you have a large budget and you have an audience where every little issue matters and people are going to judge you based on those issues, that the delivery and perfection of delivery has to be major because that release means it needs to be something that the industry actually will embrace. And so in my experience in the blockchain industry, I've learned that the down cycles are the ones to prepare for the next cycle. And it's a roller coaster ride. So right now it hurts, it's hard to hold on, but it's worth it. If I held on every time on a down cycle instead of selling any of my assets, I would be in a much more significant position in my life. But that's hindsight, and that's the lessons learned, and sometimes they're expensive. But what I'm looking forward to is that because gaming is the next frontier of adoptions, like DeFi was in this past cycle, gaming is the next cycle. You're in the right house. You placed the right bet on the right team and the right domain. And now, as you can see, international growth of the team just shows a signal that Locus is getting ready to brace and open the curtain so that the whole world actually can see the true potential. And not only through a coin and ecosystem and developers, but actually by implementing Locus into real games and showing actually its true potential and how it actually changes the game. And I think I leave it at that.